There was nothing urgent about that speech. I think it was such a waste of good TV time or radio time, however you listened to it. He gave that speech, could have been written 2 years ago. It was not in the news. He acts like Nancy Pelosi's husband is the only one who's been attacked.
Occasionally over the past few years, I have given Brian Kilmeade some credit for things. I would like to apologize for that. That was my mistake and my bad. He's terrible. And there he is apparently making the case that an American president standing up for democracy and denouncing political violence isn't timely enough. It was boring. It took away a few minutes. I was watching The Watcher or something. You made me miss part of an episode. Seriously, Brian Kilmeade? Now, look, you're not the biggest MAGA person in the world. You know what that side represents. You know what the attack on Paul Pelosi represents. The idea that you're personally aggrieved by the president speaking up about that is ridiculous. This is you doing performative impurity for your base. That's all it is. But he gets actually more specific. He didn't just have a problem with the speech. He had a problem with a particular line in the speech. Take a look at this.
And then you bring up Donald Trump, January 6th, and Paul Pelosi, and saying they heard the words, "Where's Nancy?" Right. That's the same thing the FedEx guy says when he needs a signature. "Where's Nancy" is nothing perilous. That's what you do when you're looking for Nancy. There's no two things that are together. That guy, the nudist, Black Lives Matter enthusiasts, pride flag owner, living in a bus, who sexually abused his children, has nothing to do with January 6th, has nothing to do with Donald Trump, has everything to do with the crime in San Francisco.
Well, except that he believes basically every conspiracy theory Donald Trump has said in the last few years. He believes all of the insane conspiracy theories that, admittedly, Brian Kilmeade doesn't frequently spread on the show, but others on his network do. It's all of the Republican right-wing stuff. That's what he actually believes. But so yes, he believes conspiracy theories about the Paul Pelosi attack. He doesn't want you to, pressure the Republicans to have a reckoning for their normalization of political violence. That is super expected. But his issue, Anna, with the "Where's Nancy" thing, it's what the FedEx guy says. Yeah, it might be what the FedEx guy says, but it's what the insurrectionists said as they stalked through the halls of Congress looking to lynch Nancy Pelosi. And it's what the guy last week said as he was talking about his plot to break her kneecaps. I don't really understand what Brian Kilmeade's point is supposed to be there, except to reassure his audience, you don't have to take seriously that a guy nearly assassinated the Speaker of the House a week ago.
I just think we need to accept that people like Brian Kilmeade are gonna do exactly what we think they're gonna do every time there's an example of a right-wing conspiracy theorist or someone who might be mentally unstable and has been incited by the right wing. Anytime they carry out an act of violence, we know what the playbook is gonna be. And the individuals who watch Fox News, the conservative media commentators, they like what happened. They don't want to change anything about their rhetoric. They don't want unity in the country. They've been egging on a civil war for years now. And so, yeah, Brian Kilmeade is going to say exactly what you're going to predict that he would say after there's another example of some unhinged right-wing lunatic carrying out an act of violence. I don't know what the solution is. What I do know is at some point, I mean, all I can think of is just mocking people like Brian Kilmeade, like how he just debases himself and embarrasses himself with that completely like that thinly veiled nonsense argument. But Democrats need to do more to address the issue in an indirect way, because I don't think that giving speeches about it is going to solve it. I don't think that there's any appeal to morality that will be persuasive to Republican voters, or more importantly, the Republican Party. They immediately heard the news and decided to push crazy conspiracy theories, blame Nancy Pelosi for whatever reason. I mean, it's what you would expect. And I don't know what else to say about it at this point. I mean, we're dealing with monstrous people who say vomitous things and they're never gonna stop.
I agree.
I don't know what to do.
Don't have a solution either. And I find that to be frustrating. It seems weird that we would have to just see this happening and then go, oh, okay. They inspire these acts of violence, knowing what they're doing when they inspire them. The attack happens, and then they spend the next week running defense for the assassin, pretending facts about him, making up nonsense, laughing about it. And we know, watching that makes it more likely that these attacks happen. I was listening to, I think, The Daily, and they were talking about the threats that different members of Congress get. Nancy Pelosi gets the most, but Ilhan Omar and AOC get a ton as well. Like, this is, I guess this is taking us into particularly dark territory, but I would be lying if I didn't say that at all times, I have one of the little background processes running in my brain is this the day that they get murdered?
Wow.
Like, I've been worrying that since they got elected and watching Fox's coverage of them. 2 freshman congresswomen that they immediately began talking about on a daily basis, insanely covering them, digging up videos of them dancing, talking about their sex lives like Tucker Carlson does, obviously hoping to inspire physical or sexual violence against them. And they were barely even protected by leadership, even though leadership can see the targeting of them. And we know what the right wing wants. And so we're just supposed to just watch this. And then I guess we get to be shocked if something happens someday. And when it happens, by the way, they will respond in the exact same way. If AOC were to be gunned down at a town hall, knock on wood,
they would love
Sean
it.
Hannity will do a thing about, 8 years earlier, the assassin said a thing, so what are you gonna do? They killed a congressperson. That's what they'll do. And we are just supposed to watch this as if there is nothing that can be done about this. And I don't know what we can do, even if we have a platform. It doesn't seem like there's anything we can do. A random person, doesn't seem like there's anything we could do. But I kind of feel like Biden and the Democrats could have done something, if not to shut down the rhetoric, at least to strengthen election laws to make it less likely that these insane fascists take power and make it impossible for us to ever get power back again. They could have done something about that, I feel like.
Oh, they absolutely could have. And that's the thing. I mean, what frustrates me so much about the Democrats constantly talking about the threats to our democracy is they were in a position of power. They're in a position of power right now. Yeah, that's a slim majority. But when it comes to something like lifting the debt ceiling, they'll find, carve outs for the filibuster. Yep. They'll find a way to make it happen. When it came to the voting rights bill, they didn't even try, John. They didn't even try. With the Build Back Better Act, there was months and months of negotiations going back and forth. How do we save it? How do we get it passed, right? When it came to voting rights, they didn't even try. We were initially told that they were going to shelve Build Back Better so they can focus on a Voting Rights Act. And they didn't even work on the Voting Rights Act. That's what happened. And so when I hear Joe Biden specifically call out the voter intimidation that's happening near ballot boxes in Arizona, it's like, well, there could have been a federal law preventing that from happening. Yeah. There could have been under your leadership with a majority of Democrats in Congress.
Yep. No, we just said.
I mean, how am I supposed to not get angry at the Democratic Party? How am I supposed to and that's the thing. I'm so sick of election after election, same thing. It's always the same thing. We failed. We didn't deliver on anything we promised that we would deliver on. But Republicans are so scary. They're going to destroy our democracy. You have to vote for us. I'm so sick of finding myself in the same position over and over again. It is their mess. It is their doing. They had an opportunity to pass a voting rights bill. They didn't do it. And anyone who comes at me and says, well, there's this problem with the system and there was that obstacle and this, when they want to get something done, they get it done. When Republicans want to get something done, even if it's tremendously unpopular, like a massive 2017 tax cut for the rich, they get it done.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.